let me have you introduce yourself, and we'll kind of start from there.
So my name is Paula Copper, and I am the owner and operator of Black Sheep Sourdough Micro Bakery out of Paso.
Excellent. And how long have you been doing sourdough for?
In January will be 1 year.
Oh,
So not very long. Yeah, I've only been selling for 6 months.
But I'm sure you've been baking before that, right?
I actually just started in last September.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So what got you into that?
Actually, I went gluten-free and a few years ago, and the bread in the grocery store just is not good. It tastes like cardboard. It's really small pieces, and very expensive. And I saw a TikTok video about sourdough and how the decomposition of the gluten breaks it down and it's easier to digest. So I just went on this adventure to try and create a starter and make bread.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. So, so you started there. Were you having any this is a more personal question, but were you having like digestive issues with the bread or anything, or you just wanted to experiment with?
No, I've always been like a food nerd, and I've always been like a food as medicine person.
Yeah.
Instead of pills or drugs from the doctor or whatever. And so, I had read about how gluten is a food-based opioid, basically, and got some information from my hippie doctor, I call him. And so it was a suggestion. So it was just by personal choice. And then we started to notice that's how I fed my family. Same way. My husband ate that way. My kids ate that way.
Yeah.
And then we started to notice that my husband's knees stopped hurting and the inflammation in his knees and back went down. And so he's actually gluten intolerant. And so it started to improve for everybody. So
he got tested kind of after that or something, or someone?
No, we just figured it out because when he would get a hold of gluten, then he would have pain.
And gluten's in everything.
Yes.
Not just bread.
No, it's in sauces. It's in cream. It's in everything.
It's in everything. So trying to get rid of it is quite difficult.
Yes.
Yes. So you started making bread, and you started a starter. Where did you get that starter from, or you just made it on your own?
I made it on my own. It took me 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months to create one that I liked. The flavor, the texture, everything was perfect. So in January 2024 was when I made my first loaf that I liked, that was good. And so that is where Dorita was born, and that's her name. My starter's name is Dorita.
Yeah, and I read that was after your aunt, right?
Yes, after my great aunt. So I read a story or another sourdough blogger, and she was saying that you should name it after somebody that was special to you because it gives it life. And so she was my great aunt, and she didn't have any of her own kids, and so she kind of like spoiled us and took care of us and was great, and she was cool. And so I thought Dorita was perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what was that like, research experimenting process for you? Because you said it took you 4 months?
Yes.
To kind of get a starter that you liked, and you can buy starters too. Yeah. I know San Francisco. We've bought a few of those from San Francisco. I forget what the company is, but we've done that, and then one day we leave and it like dies and we're like, oh no, like
that's actually a huge misconception. It's extremely hard to kill them.
Really?
They are so robust and so vibrant. A lot of people think that they kill them. You can put them in the refrigerator for 6, 8, 9 months and then bring it back out if you want to make bread in 2 days and feed it and take it to get it to temperature.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kill them unless it turns black on top. It's really hard. Think about, like I always tell people, think about in the time when people were coming over on the Oregon Trail. They didn't have the most perfect conditions. They didn't have distilled filtered water. They didn't have all of that stuff, and they made bread. So it's really hard. It's very robust. And so as long as you keep it in the refrigerator and feed it when you want to make bread.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a fun adventure. The leavening and like all of that stuff, the science behind it is what has been so much fun for me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into that. Like so I know that your starter, you feed it. And then that is your leavening agent, right?
Right. So you take an offshoot of that.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you have your starter. So I have my Dorita, and then I want to make 2 loaves of bread. Like I brought you a loaf of bread today. So then I will take 10 grams or whatever your recipe calls for of Dorita, feed it with flour and water, and then that becomes what's called a levain or your leavening agent. Mm-hmm. Once that gets bubbly and doubled in size, then you add that to your recipe. So a lot of people think that you have to have these containers and hundreds of grams of starter lying around to make all this bread.
Yeah.
It's not the case. You're actually just taking like a little bit of the starter to make it. And then you still feed your starter to keep her active and bubbly, but you're only using a tiny little bit every time to make that levain, that leavening agent.
So then how long does that take to make your leavening agent? Does it take a couple days or?
Well, it depends. So you, it depends on how much you feed it. You have to think of your starter as little mouths. That little starter in there is little mouths. And so the more flour you give it, the longer it's going to take to break it down. So if I want to make a loaf there's like I have like an 8-hour recipe. Mm-hmm. So you just obviously feed her less flour, enough that you'll need for that recipe, and it'll be bubbly and active in 3 to 4 hours. And then you can process your dough. You still have to process the dough, which takes time and all of that. And so for me, like say if I'm going to do a big bake, it takes like 6 to 8 hours for her to get active and bubbly because I need that much starter for that recipe.
Yeah, and then I'm sure that improves the flavor too, just in general, right?
So yeah, so the longer that it's sitting and fermenting, once that starter has hit the dough and the water in the recipe, is the more sour it's going to get. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can kind of play with your flavors too. So I have some people that prefer their sourdough to be more like a French bread. They like the benefits of sourdough, but they don't necessarily want it to be so sour. Mm-hmm. So then you just don't let it ferment as long and don't let it sit for as long during the proofing process. And then I have some people that like it very sour. And so I'm doing like 24 to, 30 hours fermentation process for them. Yeah. So it can be super tangy.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like the tang.
And that's focaccia too. So focaccia will sit in the fridge for 2 days. Mm-hmm. And that's a really different process than when you're making bread. And so that's where it gets that super sour flavor.
Yeah, we make that here. It's so good.
Yes.
So good.
Yes, so good.
And it's so simple. I mean, it's pretty easy to make.
I always tell people, I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
It is. It's just time consuming. You have to give it love. You have to pay attention. You have to take temperatures, like, that kind of stuff. So. Yeah,
definitely. So when so during that leavening process, the yeast, the natural yeast, is that consuming the gluten?
It's actually, it's decomposing it. So it's breaking it down.
Okay.
So when it's, and that's where the gas and the bubbles and all of that stuff that comes into play, that bacteria wants to eat it. It eats the sugars, it eats all of that stuff. And so it decomposes it and breaks it down, which makes it more tolerable for people who are gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant. Yeah. So it's kind of helpful. She's helpful. And then it also lowers the glycemic index of every meal because that sugar is being consumed too. So it's suggested for people who are diabetic to eat sourdough bread also, like real true sourdough bread. Mm-hmm. So, because there's no sugar, just the natural sugar that's in the yeast, or in the flour, but it will break it down and eat it.
Right. So, but a lot of that stuff, like a lot of the sourdough in the grocery stores aren't like that, right? Or is it? Is it how close is it to true sourdough, I guess, is the question.
Well, there are some that use true sourdough. It'll say like sourdough starter. A lot of them do add vinegar, so it is more sour because they're not letting it sit and ferment for so long. But I think it's also too all of the other stuff that they're putting into it, all of the preservatives and the additives and all of those things that they're also putting into it to make it more shelf stable and to last on the shelf for 2 weeks and that kind of stuff too that we don't really want to put in our bodies. Right. My bread is 3 ingredients: flour, water, and salt. That's it. You don't need anything else.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. But then that's like, it just you got to eat it though, right? Like you got to eat it within a week or something, or
if you keep it cold.
Okay.
I always say, if you keep it cold or it'll mold. For my family, it's actually kind of an interesting question because I do have my bread is being sold at Cider Creek Bakery right now, and that was a question for them, obviously, right? Because shelf stability. Right. And so I said, well, actually, we need to run some studies because it doesn't last that long. Like I literally had no information to give them on how long it was going to last because people eat it so fast. And so in my house, we keep it inside a Dutch oven with a lid because it's in the airs where the bacteria that's going to create the mold. And so as long as you keep it covered, So right now I'm telling people 5 to 7 days, but if you keep it cold, way longer than that. On the counter, in my bag, or on the counter, like in something covered, then it should, last 5 to 7, maybe even 10 days.
I mean, it won't stick around that long. People will eat it, but I'm just, when you get stuff like that, you're like, oh, we got to eat it. So.
Yes. And you want to, because it's fresh, and a lot of people are buying it for their weekly sandwiches, or if they have a special dinner or something like that. So it's not sitting around. So it was kind of a cool thing that I did have to figure out how long it was going to last.
Right.
So that way I can give that information to the people that are buying it.
So but you just ran some experiments at your house or something, or?
Yes. And actually Brad, the owner of Cider Creek, kept his on the counter too at his house, because I gave him a sample loaf, and he helped me with that too. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
you guys are both kind of like figuring it out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think he's taken me under his wing and just kind of, he's a nice guy, so he's been helping me.
Yeah, I mean, and all that stuff out there is, we always get pies at Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I mean, really throughout the year, but
yeah.
Because it's so good.
It's so yummy.
It's so good.
I'm trying to get him to let me sell some more my stuff in there. I try to lure him every time. I'll bring him a cookie or a muffin or something, but they make all their own stuff. Yeah. So I get it. I'm just grateful to be in there.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So how did you start that relationship?
When I first decided that I was going to open up a bakery, which kind of just happened organically. It wasn't like I woke up and told my husband, like, oh, today I'm going to open up a bakery.
Yeah,
it just kind of just fell into place. I started emailing. I told myself I was going to email 25 businesses every single day.
Nice.
With like a little blurb about myself and about how I'm a new bakery starting in Paso, and let's keep it local, and like all those things, and about healthy ingredients and good gut health. And I actually messaged Cider Creek on Facebook, and then he messaged me back. So
cool.
Yeah, and actually it was like months ago when I first started, and then I got really nervous because he told me to bring in samples, and I got really nervous because I was still so new and stuff. And then just like a couple months ago, I reconnected with him and said, okay, I'm ready now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that's nice that you're like, I'm not quite ready.
Yeah.
Like,
I've actually done that a couple of times with people in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And just because I think I was a little nervous, and I didn't really know like the marketing stuff and the business side of it.
Yeah,
like, right. I love bread, and I can make bread, and I can make all the pastries, but that other part of it, and I knew I was going to get asked those questions, so I needed to prepare myself first.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, that's cool that they seem very nice out over there and stuff. So,
yeah.
So with that, how has that kind of transition been for you? Like, because you're fairly new, and you're like, I got to make more volume, right? Not just for myself, or, for my family and friends. That like, this is like a business now, and I need to make an X amount per week.
I think, like, honestly, the hardest thing for me is because food is my love language, and feeding people is my love language. I think the hardest thing for me is wanting to give it away to people still, even though I have to make money, and this is a business now.
Yeah.
But being able to create that volume is where the science comes into it, and where the math and all of that stuff that you never thought that you were going to use, that you learned in high school, that now you have to relearn and reteach yourself.
It's very precise.
It is very precise. Yeah. And now I'm asking my son, my high schooler, to help me.
The math.
I always tell him, math guy, come here.
Yeah. That's what I do. When I make a sausage, I'm like, oh, how do I do this math business?
I know.
I'm like, my wife, can you just tell me how to do it?
I saw this meme one time that said, like, you remember all that math you learned in high school that you hated and you never were going to use ever in your life, and now you opened a sourdough bakery and you are using it every single day. It's like so true.
But yeah, I know. My wife always says, like, you're the cooker, but I'm the baker.
Yes.
I'm more precise. I'm like,
and I think that's
true.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, up until now, I was never a baker. My mom is an amazing baker. I grew up watching my mom bake all this amazing stuff, and my dad and my grandpa used to always make bread together, but I was always a very good cook. Yeah. And so for every holiday leading up until this year, now I will bring stuff, or prepare stuff, but they always would bring the pies. And my daughter is an amazing pie baker. Pies and all the desserts would be on their job, and I would be doing all of the other stuff. And so my husband jokes about that too. He was like, we've been married for 20 plus years, and I couldn't get you to make me a chocolate chip cookie, and now you're just like opening up this bakery. But I think that goes along with me learning sourdough and learning Dorita and what she likes and what she doesn't like, and mastering the science behind that, and knowing, and it being an adventure almost, like, hey, because I know how to also take a regular recipe and turn it into a sourdough recipe now. Yeah. So being able to learn all of that and saying, hey, this is my grandpa's recipe for panettone, which is Italian bread that he would make at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. And so that I've been like researching and how I can make that this year for the first time myself ever and make it into a sourdough. So that way my husband can eat it too.
Oh, that's
cool. So yeah. So that's like a new adventure, and like carrying on that heritage of watching my grandpa and my dad make bread my whole life. And then now I can, and like pulling some stuff that I've watched my mom do and all of that stuff. So it's kind of full circle in a way.
Yeah. So for the conversion, is it like 1-to-1 at camp? Is it 1-to-1?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is 1-to-1.
Yes. You can make me give away all my secrets.
Oh, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, no secrets. I mean,
so if you can look at a recipe and you say, oh, I'd like to say I want to add 100 grams of sourdough into that recipe. Yeah. You literally just pull 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of the water out.
Oh, nice.
It's that easy.
Wow.
Yeah. So you need to prepare that levain of 100 grams of starter, which is super easy. And then add that to the recipe. And then you have to tweak it just a little bit. You might need to add more. You might need to add less if you want less sour, more sour, whatever works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the flavor.
Yes.
Right. So
there's a lot of like oopsies, or this isn't perfect, I don't want to sell it, but my little saying behind the business is perfectly imperfect, because I think that in this world, especially for women, I mean men too, but especially for women, they need to always be perfect in some way or another. And perfectly imperfect, it's still yummy. It's still good.
Oh yeah.
So I try not to be so hard on myself with that, but there's still, work it out, figure it out, make sure it looks pretty and presentable. There you go. Yeah.
At least, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or, like go with a rustic look, which is kind of more my style.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it tastes good. I mean, that's always the thing. It's like, it's got to taste good. That's all.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, So with this like cold weather, like this morning, how does that affect like your leavening agent or your leavening process? Does it take longer?
Yes.
Yeah, it does, right?
So Dorita, every starter is different. Every home is different. Every flour is different in every home. So I can take my flour and bring it here and try and make bread. It might not work out the same way.
Yeah.
Because of the air density and all that stuff. So you have to find what flour works best for you too. So the cold weather, Dorita definitely prefers all starters prefer 75 to 85 degrees all the time.
Okay.
So I actually they make all these fancy contraptions, and that would be the first piece of advice that I would give people is do not buy all of that stuff. Like that the influencers say that you need and all that stuff. I literally put her on a heating pad. Like a heating pad that my husband would use for his back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like just set it on, and I use my stove light. So to keep her, stove light, and then a heating pad. They make like rubber pads like specifically for starter, but it's the same idea as a heating pad that you can buy at Rite Aid.
Giving away all the secrets.
And it's multi-useful. Is your back hurt?
You're
Here
like,
you
hey,
go.
Where's that back? My back's kind of hurting.
Yeah.
That's got to be with your sourdough.
Yes,
Keep it alive.
Yes.
That's cool.
But there are so many rules in quotes I say, and when I first started doing all this, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Don't do this, do this, don't do that, don't do that. Don't you dare put tap water near her. Don't you dare use any sort of metal. And everything has to be wood and like all these things. And so at first it was super overwhelming. I think that's why it took me 4 months, was because I was trying to figure out like what worked and what didn't work. And along with hearing all of the noise in the background of what to do and what not to do by all of these people. So what I did is I found 2 mentors, and I liked their style. I liked the way that their product looked, and I liked the way that they talked on their videos. They were very like educational and very instruction. They would do it in a teaching manner, not on purpose. That's just how they talked. They're not influencers. They're bakers just like me, started as home bakers. Right. And then I unfollowed every single other person.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so that is another piece of advice, is pick 1 or 2 people and bounce your ideas off of them, talk to them, and And these are people that I've just said, hey, like I'm new in the sourdough world. Like I just have a couple of quick questions. And they're people that sell their recipes, but for some reason they'll just be like, here, try this. Add your touch to this, try this or try that. And so I've just made a connection with them. And
are those people local or
no?
Just...
One of them lives in Kansas and one of them lives in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I just happened across their videos, and I just kind of, like I said, asked questions, and they were very helpful, and then it just went from there, and so I just unfollowed everybody else because it was too noisy. It was too much stuff.
It's just too much stuff to tell you what to do, and you're like, how am I gonna get through all this info? Is it right? Is it not right? You know?
Yeah, and then you will create your own. Yeah. What works for you and what doesn't work for you. So.
Yeah, but you gotta have some kind of base knowledge to kind of branch off always, right? That learning curve is always, you know, a steep climb for the first couple, however long, you know. Well, that's good that they responded. Sometimes people don't say anything, you know.
Yeah, and I did have people that, you know, like, oh, that was a really cool recipe. How did you get it to blah blah blah, whatever it was, and. They wouldn't respond, and I know they're busy, you know, because they are influencers. And so I just picked a couple that did respond and that I, you know, created some sort of connection with. And I'm sure they have zero idea how important they've influenced me, you know, so.
Well, hopefully they do. I mean, but I mean,
I tell them.
Well, that's good. I mean, hopefully they do.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
You know, but maybe they don't. You know, people are weird most of the time.
They are.
Especially over
we're
the
all
internet.
Weird. Yeah, we're all weird in our own way.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I talk to a bowl of dough, so.
You talk to it?
I talk to her all the time.
Yeah? What do you tell it?
She's pretty. I tell her she's pretty. My husband tells me I'm crazy all the time.
No, you gotta do your thing.
Yeah. I just think that, like, you nurture her and love her and make sure she's dough Rita's good. And she's, right now, I'm starting a new life with her. So, you know, this is a brand new business and I'm closing another business and doing this full time. So it's definitely have to nurture it just like anybody would any other hobby that they would turn into a business, something that they love. So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's still pretty quick. I mean, a year. I mean,
it was supposed to take longer. It was in my brain. It was going to take me about a year before I even started selling stuff, just because I wanted everything to be perfect in my brain, you know, in my head. Yeah. And then it started turning into me giving everything away because that's my love language, and I just want to just share it. And I was so proud. And then it was, no, I'm going to pay you for this. You're not going to just give this to me. And then people started buying it from me. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I was like, I think I'm going to stop doing this other job, and I'm going to do this full time.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And a lot of the people that I've had on here, it's kind of a similar story to almost everybody. Whatever they're doing, it just kind of somehow lines up with people. Yeah. You know, it's kind of amazing. And you're like, this thing that you do, like make vinegar or make hats on the Central Coast. So you're like, and it all just kind of lines up. Yep. And they're like, now they have a brick and mortar, and now they're selling stuff.
Yeah. And it when it happens like that and it's not forced is when I came to the conclusion that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. Because I did push back. How could you not, right? Right. I did push back, and I did say, no, like, this is too fast. I'm not ready for this. Like I was saying, like, oh no, I'm not ready. Like, I reached out to Cider Creek months ago, you know, when I first, 6 months ago or whatever. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm not ready because I got nervous, you know? And then,
which is understandable.
It's happening all organically and like everything going smoothly and things are working out. And it's like, how can I look in any other direction than this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so. Totally. And I'm sure you're happier doing it.
Yeah, I am happier. It's actually helped me, like, therapeutic wise. It's quieted a lot of noise in my head. I know that there's like shirts out there that say like baking is my therapy, and it is 1000%, because there's so much going on in the world and in everybody's lives, and to be able to put my headphones on and just concentrate on what I'm doing. It's kind of like the equivalent of when I go to the gym. You put your headphones on and you're literally just focused on your body and what you're doing there at the gym. Same idea. Yeah. Put my headphones on, quiets all the noise in your head, and you can focus on what you're doing. And with it being me baking bread, I'm also going to make somebody else happy with that bread. Somebody else is going to get that, and it's going to make them happy. So it's very fulfilling for me.
Definitely. I mean, that's awesome. Have you seen that guy that's like the video? He's like, I heard baking was could help depression, and he's like, I made this pie and it didn't turn out, and I made these cookies and it didn't turn out. He's like, when are the voices gonna stop? Have you seen that guy?
No,
I should send it to you. It's hilarious.
But that does sound like.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It was during COVID.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, what?
Yeah.
He has like all this stuff on his counter. Oh man.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to send that to me because that sounds funny.
I'll send it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll love it.
Okay.
Have you explored any of like the sourdough like people that are like, I guess, more famous, like, like a Nancy Silverton, or have you explored any of her stuff? And
I definitely know that she's like the pioneer of it all, or not pioneer, but like made it famous and like that kind of stuff. And I knew, like, I had no idea that sourdough was such like a revolution right now, like so popular right now, until I like started researching to learn how to make it for my family, just because I wanted good bread that we could eat, not hurt our stomachs.
Right.
And so, yeah, like I kind of, in the beginning, it was kind of like, you're bandwagoning, everybody's doing sourdough right now, that kind of thing. But I wasn't doing it for those reasons. I was doing it just so I can create bread for my family could eat, that didn't taste like cardboard. So I definitely do look up to those people, but I try to limit the amount of people that I do look on the internet. I know that she's like very educational and stuff, but I do try to limit that just because gets very noisy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people are always going to say that. I mean, even with me starting this, they're like, how rich, I'm like, no, I'm doing my own thing now.
Yeah.
I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah. And my husband actually says good advice, and it'll pertain to you too, which is you can do what everybody else is doing. And he didn't word it this way because I know his heart, and so I know what he meant, but he's like, you can do what everybody else is doing, but it's really you.
Yeah.
People are going to come here. There could be 10 people doing a podcast on the same street, but people are going to come here because of you.
Right, exactly.
So same with me. Somebody else could be making sourdough bread. There's lots of people that make sourdough bread, and but it's me. Ultimately, it's me that people are drawn to, and I mean, that's what my husband says. So he's such a sweet guy, but it's me that they're coming to buy the bread from. Also, the bread is good and my products are good, but it's also you as a person that they want to have a relationship with, and for me to become their bread person, their sourdough person. So I think that's important too.
Yeah. I mean, as far as what you're doing, you're definitely doing sourdough, but I don't know anybody exclusively doing, I mean, maybe you do, but I'm not in the bread world, but other than like, San Luis sourdough, which has changed quite a bit because I'm from here and that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
And it was great. And now it's kind of different now.
Yeah.
Really. I really don't like it as much, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't. It's just kind of different. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, I think too that like when we get into like these bigger, it probably started at such like, I think I don't really know about San Luis sourdough because I didn't grow up here, but it's like, I know that, my husband who did grow up in San Luis grew up eating it, and they had the store out front where you can get the day old stuff.
Exactly.
And like he would do all that stuff.
That's what we did.
Yeah. And so I'm sure it was very different then, and it probably started as like a mom and pop and like all of that stuff. And then just as it get bigger, they got to start changing things. And I have zero interest in any of that. Like I don't want a brick and mortar. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I literally just want to cook out of my house. Have customer orders, do farmers markets, do like craft fairs, and like deliver to bakeries and delis. Like I don't want a storefront.
It's kind of the move though. That's kind of the move. No one wants the storefront.
I don't want, like, I still want to like, I want to have like a relationship with customers and like have people come in and like have repeats, because that's part of the relationship. And, but I don't necessarily want all the other stuff that comes along with having a place where people come and sit down. And, my parents had that stuff my whole life growing up. My parents used to own an ice cream parlor in Morro Bay. And like, so I kind of was always in that realm in some way or another because my parents are always doing something like that. And so I just don't want that. I'd rather just go and like deliver it and make it out of the house and that kind of stuff. So
that's better. I mean, that's really better.
Yeah.
That's like the
keep it
the kind of the best
homemade.
of both worlds, right?
Yeah. Keep it true homemade out of my house with my hands. I do the labeling. I do all the stickering. I do all the bagging. And with my friends, the Black Sheep girls, they come over and help all the time. So I tell them every week, okay, this week I need the blah, 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 blah. And whoever can help can help.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice to have friends like that.
Yeah.
To help,
They're so great. They're, along with, my husband too, and my kids, it's like, I need somebody to do. I feel like I can sell anything on the corner. I joke. So they just, they're just like and that's where the name came from, was Black Sheep Girls. Is we are just an odd group of women. There's 9 of us. Nobody's allowed in and nobody's allowed out. And about 3-ish years ago, we became super tight, and we come from all different walks of life. There's a couple of us that you would never picture us being friends, just because we are so different in our normal lives. And we created this bond over mutual love of having friends. No judgment, just pure love. And about 3 years ago, one of them was at a gas station. She saw a hat that said Black Sheep on it. It had a black sheep. And she was like, girls, look at this hat on our group chat. And I was like, oh, I want one, because I'm definitely the black sheep of the family. Right. And then everybody else was like, I want one. So for the last 3 years, anytime we go anywhere together, we all wear our black sheep hats. I actually brought it to show you. And so we, a couple times a year, get together and do like these girls trips. And about a year ago in last year, September, when I first went on the sourdough, or this, adventure of learning how to bake bread for my family, we were in Yosemite for my birthday. And we were on a hike, and I was like, I'm going to open up a bakery and I'm going to name it Black Sheep. And nice. they were like, you're crazy. Didn't believe me, this and that. And then fast forward to me taking the next 4 months to figure out how to make a starter, and Black Sheep was born. But Black Sheep Bakery was born.
They're like, you were right.
Yeah.
They had to eat their words a little bit, huh?
Yeah. Well, once I started to master the bread, I would start bringing it to our adventures together. Mm-hmm. So we did one most recently in Creston, where I rented a house for all of us, an Airbnb in the middle of a winery. And that was the first time I ever made bread for them. And so I brought a loaf with me to cook in that house that I rented for us. And it was so cool just to see my friends, enjoying my bread. And like, I made that for them, and my love was put into that. And so, and it's all based around that friendship. That group friendship is where the name came from.
Nice.
And so, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think I would have assumed that with the name, right?
Yeah. I actually, when I do go to my fairs and stuff like that, I actually have a picture of all of us together.
Oh, nice.
That's there, and it says the Black Sheep Girls. And it has a little sheep next to it, a black sheep next to it. But the picture of all of us there together at that Creston, where I made them the first loaf of bread, is on my table.
Oh, nice.
At my shows, yeah.
So they're like, oh, okay, she's serious.
Yeah.
And she's going to do this thing.
Yes.
So they probably all pitched in then after that, or before that, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, and some of them have littles, so I don't expect. I know I'm not going to get as much them to be able to come to all my show or to my craft fairs and to my markets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they are all there emotionally and mentally, that's for sure, and that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. I always tell them, this is my baby, but we're raising it together. Like, this bakery is my baby, but just like they say, like it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. So this is my baby, but we're all raising it together. In some way, they help. No matter if they can't physically be there to help me label bags or to unload bread out of my truck or my car to set up market, they're there some way or another. Even if they, like today coming here, I'm so nervous, and all of them was with all the pep talk, like, you got this, the information, you're going to do great. Like, yeah. Even just that kind of stuff. So, nice. So yeah, that's where the name came from.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What's kind of like on your horizon? I know you kind of want to just kind of do what you're doing, but is there any anything else that's next other than just kind of keep it on?
Well, there's definitely like recipes that I would like to master. I would like to master donuts, like bake,
like a sourdough donut,
and make it more gluten conscious is what I need to say, and just master it to where it's not fried and it's baked, but it's still so yummy, and like a donut you had as a kid growing up. That's like my main thing I want to master right now is a donut. I got the other stuff down.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think just getting more getting my bread in more places. Like I actually write little inscriptions on each of the bags that I take to the bakery, to Cider Creek, that say like love at first bite, and one of them that I put on there is baking the world a better place. If I can sell you a loaf of bread and you're going to sit around the table and eat that as a family, like that makes me happy. And that's how I grew up. We had dinner every single night together, no matter what was going on in everybody's lives with sports and everything. And then once we all became adults and had our own families, it was family dinner every Sunday. And so that's, some of the root behind it too is, is if I can give you something to add to a meal or to help you get your family around the table so you can just talk or spend time together, then that's cool. Mm-hmm. That's really cool in my heart.
Nice.
My little black heart is what I say.
Okay, so you're doing some experimentation with the donuts and stuff.
Yes.
And so what's that like? So you're like, okay, I want a donut. And you're obviously you have a base knowledge, but like, you kind of have to figure it out kind of as you go along. Mm-hmm. A lot of like failures or yes. So
okay. A lot of failures and a lot of yummy failures.
Yeah, I know, I'm sure they all taste good, but you're like, no, this isn't quite right or that isn't quite right.
Or if it's not, if it's a little too imperfect, because perfectly imperfect is okay and rustic is okay, but if it's, I want it to be the right consistency, it can't be too wet and like all of that stuff. And so then that's just trial and error and figuring out, maybe adding more starter, less starter, finding a recipe that will work and flavors and that kind of stuff.
But there's so many things to consider, right? I mean, variables. I mean, right. So like, I'm assuming like what I mean, maybe you already have the flour you use, but like stuff like that, like flour you use and, just temperature and flavors and how long you proof something for and all. I mean, there's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And I when I try to do that, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but once you get it, it's easy. Okay, easy is not the right word. It's a lot, but once you understand your starter and once you understand what she needs and what she wants, then the sky's the limit. Mm-hmm. And that is part of my problem too, is that like I'm saving all of these recipes and I have a binder full of them because I want to try them, like I want to try them and master them and turn them into this and turn them into that. And so I kind of have to take a step back just a little bit and have, 5 or 6 things that get really, really, really good at it and then start branching out. And so I think I'm at that point now, but so donuts is definitely one. I want to be able to take donuts and bagels to farmers market. I think that people would love that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I already do make bagels. I already do sell bagels and make bagels for customers. I just am trying to figure out like the right way to how to sell them. So, because I have on my website like cinnamon raisin bagels.
Yeah.
But it's a totally completely different dough than an everything bagel or a cheddar jalapeno bagel. So if somebody wants to order, like I don't have all that dough sitting around, obviously, because it takes 2 days and I make everything fresh to order. Yeah. So, it's a cinnamon raisin bagel it's in a full order of just that flavor. Mm-hmm. And then the other ones are mix and match. And so I'm just trying to like work out the kinks. Mm-hmm. So I think too that like once in 7 days now, I close my other business. And so once I close that business, my brain can fully wrap around the ideas and working out all the kinks and figuring that stuff out. So right now I'm just sticking with those 6 and 7 things that I've mastered and keeping to that. And then I can branch out and get adventurous.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's coming up. That's soon.
Yeah. I've ran a daycare out of our house for the last 16 years. And so I've taken care of a lot of babies. And part of the reason of why I think everything's been happening to me so good, somebody told me, is because I've helped so many families and shaped so many little people.
You and my wife. My wife's a NICU nurse, so.
Oh gosh, yes.
So right before you get them,
oh my gosh. Well, she gets it.
Yeah,
she gets double
definitely.
Whammy for sure. I just love them and change their diapers and feed them. She's definitely keeping them alive, so she's far more.
She
important.
does that too.
Yes, yeah.
She does that too. Yeah.
Yeah, different level. She's on a different level than I am.
No, it's all good though. You're all important.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're doing that. But so how? I mean, Have you gone through the holiday season yet with your baking? Or is this the one that's the first one coming up?
This will be the first one coming up that it's mastered.
Yeah.
So January will be 1 year of having Dorita be alive and well and thriving, and me happy with her. So this will be like my first one where I'm going to be offering, dinner rolls and that kind of stuff. So I was actually thinking about offering treat box. I call them sweet boxes, but like a variety of sweets, scones and muffins and cookies for people for their holidays and stuff like that. So, and then bread, obviously bread for sure.
Yeah.
And stuffing.
Oh,
That was a new one. Yeah. I actually just had them I just did the Templeton craft fair, not this weekend, but the weekend before, 2 weeks ago. And I took whole loaves and chopped them up into, because I also make croutons out of my sourdough bread.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah. And so there was an older lady there, and she was like, "Oh, is that for stuffing?" And I was like, "Ding, ding, ding." I was
Thank you,
ding,
old lady.
ding, ding. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. It is. Croutons or stuffing. And then I also have been saying that to put them on top of soup.
Oh, yeah.
Pieces of the sourdough bread.
Yeah.
Just sprinkle it on top of soup. So
nice.
Yeah. So it's so versatile, and lots of stuff a lot of ideas that you can do with it.
It just depends on how much you can execute,
Yeah.
as far as like, volume wise and time wise, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that you said too, was like the hardest thing for me to master. There were 2 things that I came up with answers for that. One was to stop giving it away for free.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard. And then the other thing was time management.
So nothing that has to do with the baking portion of it.
Was definitely time management, just because everything is very time sensitive.
Yeah.
You overproof, then you overproof, and it's not gonna rise as much as you want it to.
Right.
So yeah, lots of lessons learned along the way.
Yeah.
Lots of timers going off.
Oh, you and my wife. Oh my goodness.
Dude, if I did not have Alexa, I would die. Well, now I have it on my phone too, Bixby. So I'm just like, set a timer when it's early in the morning, or that timer's constantly going off. So, and naming the timers. That's another good one. Naming the timers, yes. Because if I have, a lot of times I'm doing cookies and scones and bread and all that stuff, processing dough at the same time. And a timer just went off, and I'm like,
which one is it?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, which one was that?
Yeah, because right now the British baking show is going, so
fun.
I don't know if you watch that at all, but we love it, so we watch it and so now we're so like, armchair bakers now. We're like, oh, that's not gonna turn out after like.
Yeah, but that's good though, because that's like what intrigues people's curiosity.
Yeah,
you have all these amazing shows where you can learn stuff from and think, hey, maybe I can do that. And if you don't, obviously you probably won't get it the first time, just like everybody, but you might get it the 3rd or 4th or 5th time, if you keep trying. And so that's what makes it cool. Those shows like that,
Well, and those people, I mean, earlier in the seasons, they were like amateur bakers, and I mean, they still are, but they're incredible.
Okay.
Still. And
they're getting better as they go.
Well, they watch, the people like grow up watching it, and they're like, oh, you know what I mean? They still are amateur, but you're like, I couldn't make that though. I could not make that. Like this guy made a big lion head out of bread, and you're like,
oh yeah, no, that's next level. Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
thanks. And I don't even want to do that either.
No, it's just how the show's designed, So, what was I going to ask you though? So other than what we already mentioned before, are there any other things that, there's like misconceptions about sourdough, either bread or, the starters that you mentioned earlier, or just eating sourdough in general?
Yeah. So, you totally get it, the sourdough, but a lot of people think it's easy. That's a misconception. It's not.
No,
it's not easy.
It's not
easy in the beginning. Once you get it and you know how to work with her, then it becomes easier. But it's not easy. There's a lot of love and patience that come into each loaf. It takes me 3 days to make a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
From feeding the starter to the dough and to the bake day. And then, I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Just eating sourdough.
The benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the benefits of eating sourdough is that it lowers the glycemic index of every meal. I touched on that just a little bit earlier about how it's suggested for people who are diabetic because it actually eats all that sugar, breaks it down, makes it easier to digest. There's good gut bacteria in there too. And if you get it from a home baker or somebody that's, not only do you feel their love in that loaf of bread, they love you because it takes 3 days to make a loaf of bread, but also too, it's minimal ingredients.
Yeah.
So it's flour, water, and salt. And then if you make a flavored loaf, it's just the flavoring that you put in it. So, whether it's like I make an everything bagel one, everything but the bagel, sorry. So it's flour, water, salt, and everything bagel seasoning.
Yeah.
And, et cetera. And so for me and my family, in my world, that's very important just to have minimal processed stuff and keeping things pretty small in ingredients wise, because I'll even look at recipes too and I'm like, nope, too many ingredients, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, because you have to sell it and you're like, that's so much.
It's just too much stuff. I actually have a cookie called the mega cookie, and I put sourdough in everything, even in my pastries. So I have a cookie that I've, one of the Black Sheep girls' son, it's actually called like a monster cookie, I think, in the world, or everything but the kitchen sink cookie. I don't know. And I made them for her, and her son said, whoa, that's a mega cookie. So I named it the mega cookie. and so I hate making them. But I will always make them for him, but I hate making them just because there's so many ingredients.
Yeah.
It's peanut butter and oatmeal and chocolate chips and M&Ms, and then plus all the other things that go into it with it, with the dough. And so it's just a lot of stuff. So I try to keep things pretty minimal. So that's like that's my busiest recipe is what I call it. So
the mega cookie.
The mega cookie.
I'm sure it's delicious though.
Yes. And it sells out every time I make them, but I will always leave that last to make.
So even the pastries that you make, with your sourdough starter, it's a lower glycemic index for those as well. Like
it is, yes, but I'm still adding sugar because obviously it's a pastry.
Right.
But yes, it is, and you're still getting some of that good gut bacteria, which is super important to me. But yeah, it's lower on the glycemic index too, so it's good for you, I guess. If you're going to eat a cookie,
it's still a cookie. I was just trying to think.
Still has butter.
Yeah. Like compared to like a regular cookie, I think like that's kind of how I was kind of framing it in my brain. It's like versus a regular cookie made just the regular way versus how you make it. Mm-hmm. It's just slightly
a little bit better.
Yes, just slightly.
We can't say healthy because
no,
it's still a
I didn't
cookie.
say that.
yeah. We can't say healthy, but it's definitely better than eating the regular cookie. You're removing and adding something that's just a little bit better.
Yeah.
So they taste very similar, so a lot of people are very intrigued by sourdough cookie. So I brought you two today.
Yeah, no, we'll eat them. I'm sure my kids are probably already eating them.
Yeah, one of them's a maple brown sugar cookie, and one of them's my sugar cookie, which is my favorite cookie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we kind of wrap this up? I know I want to plug like where people can find you, but anything else, before we do that?
I think that I think that like maybe in just encouraging people, like I was like looking at your show and stuff, and it's like you really do, it's a big deal for you, that's what you're doing, because we're all small businesses and we're all local, and that's a big deal because it's a family. Usually it's a family that you're supporting. It is a family that you're supporting. Yeah. And so that's the other thing too. It's like just to support small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And to know like that somebody loves what they're doing. It's like I made that with my hands. There's no machine that is making those loaves of bread that I take to Cider Creek twice a week. I made that bread with my hands and my love and my sore shoulders.
Oh no.
But it's like I made that for you, and I think that that's important. If we get back to that's kind of like a root in our like as humans. And getting back to that kind of stuff. And I know it's easy to go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread for sure. And it's far cheaper too. And so I understand that also, but if you can, to support people that are doing things like what we're doing, you running this business and me running my business, and just showing that love, that local love for sure.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, now that I've started doing this, it's like, I'm like, okay, I gotta go get the olive oil from here.
Yeah.
I gotta go get the bread from here. I gotta, and it's all better. Like, I'm happy to do it. Really, I'm not complaining. I'm just like, oh, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a vinegar guy up the street. Mm-hmm. I just got like 10 vinegars from this.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Like,
and that not only is good for your family because you're putting less processed stuff into your body, but you're also helping his family financially for sure, but also him maybe mentally. Like, he feels good because he knows that you're getting his product, because that's how it's helped me the most, is to know that, like, I made this with my hands because I like making it. I love making it. And then now I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to sit and eat it with your family and your kids. And that makes my heart happy. And so just knowing, like, there's more to it than just buying from a farmer's market,
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a person behind it, and I think that's, kind of what we lose a lot of times. It's very impersonal a lot of times.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it can be a little cold,
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah. And we have all these extra great products to go with your bread. Like I said, the olive oil that I get at Olea, their stuff is amazing. And then, we get the balsamic from, Chaparral Gardens.
There you go. Your oil vinegar, my bread.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
You just need some spaghetti. You're good to go.
And I can get it from Edo. I'm going to go get it from Edo.
Yeah, Edo pasta.
Edo pasta.
Yeah, you get some sauce. I don't know where you would get sauce, but...
I'm probably Edo.
Actually, they do sell sauce there too. Yeah, so there you go. There's your dinner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's great. I mean, you can taste the difference. It's so much better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Totally. All right. Anything else you want to add to people? I'm going to have you plug yourself, but anything else that, what was I going to say? When people buy your stuff, like, you kind of already touched on it, but maybe touch on it again. Like, how do you make it? Probably won't last, but if they wanted to make it last just a little bit longer, what is the process to do that?
To make the bread last longer?
Yes.
Like, that they buy from me?
Yeah.
I would definitely keep it in the refrigerator.
Okay.
You can freeze it also. One of the cool tricks about true homemade fresh sourdough, like what I make, is you can actually freeze the entire loaf, and you can take the whole loaf out of the bag or container, whatever you freeze it in, and put it under running water, and the whole loaf, dunk it under running water, and then put it directly in the oven, and it's fresh like the day it was made.
Really?
Yes. You can't do that with, like, some of the store-bought ones because they have all the preservatives and junk in them, but you can stick the whole thing. And so that I've done that before too, where I'll have extra loaves. Like right now I had one because sourdough's unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
So every time I take that lid off, it's like a surprise, and that's what's exciting about it. I don't know what's going to happen in there. She has a mind of her own. And so I have one that cooked same time, processed the same way, but for some reason the edges got way too toasty. And I know that, like, customers in the store, I like it like that, but so I have it sitting on the counter, so I'll throw it in the freezer and then I'll take it out when we want to eat it and put it under water and put it in the oven, 350 for 5 or 10 minutes, nice and crispy, like it was fresh baked. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but you can freeze them. Like, a lot of people will freeze my bagels. They'll buy all the bagels ahead of time and they'll slice them first, and then they'll freeze them and then wrap them in saran wrap, take them out as they want them. But I would say definitely keep it cold.
Keep it cold.
Keep it cold or it'll mold, and covered if you're going to keep it on the counter.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Keep a lid on the pan.
And I think we didn't touch on it yet. What was I seeing? I was seeing a couple of videos, and you pulling bread out, and there was like some crispy bits on the outside, and you're like, it's not burnt.
Oh, the Maillard effect.
Yes, I was trying to find out my questions here.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain that? So for people that buy the loaves, and they're like, it's burnt.
Yeah. So the Maillard effect, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but the Maillard effect is basically like the same idea as when you cook barbecue chicken, and you put the barbecue sauce on there, and it gets all that yummy, crispy bits on the outside of the barbecue sauce is from the sugar.
Yeah,
it's the same idea.
Okay.
So if you actually smell it, it doesn't smell like burnt bread. It just smells like toasted bread. So it could be black, and it will just still smell like toasted bread. So it's the last little bit of sugar that's left that the starter, the dough burrita didn't break down.
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's usually on the bottom or on the sides. And so, so it's called the Maillard effect. I actually researched it because it didn't smell burnt. Like my first one that I ever seen that happen on, it didn't smell burnt. So I'm like, why did it get so dark just on a couple of loaves? And so I don't even remember what I Google searched, but I probably even asked one of my mentors. And so, so it's called the Maillard effect. Yeah.
And it's not burnt.
Not
people.
burnt. It's still good.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, it's probably the best bit of it anyway. It's like,
yep.
That's the best part of the chicken. I mean,
yes. Everybody goes for those ones that are extra crispy.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's. I mean, if there's anything else you want to add, why don't you plug where you're at and where people can find you? I know there's a couple different places, but yeah, go ahead and tell people where you're at.
Yeah, so I have a ordering platform. I'm on. You can access it on Facebook. I don't have a website just yet. I know I need to do that. One of the girls in the Black Sheep gang is a business marketing person, and she keeps bugging me about that. So I need to make a website. But I do have an ordering platform that you can access on my Facebook account, which is Black Sheep Sourdough Micro Bakery, and then obviously Instagram, also same name, but you can get my bread at Cider Creek. I deliver there twice a week, 15 to 20 loaves each time.
That's in Paso.
In Paso, yes. Sorry, in Paso. And then also my pastries are available at Red Scooter Deli at both locations in Paso. I currently sell my focaccia at Vivant Cheese in Paso, which is the fancy cheese store. Yeah. Oh, is she, Danica? Yeah, she's very nice. Yeah. She was actually my first pitch, really? In-person pitch. To go and sell myself. And then also too, I have a couple of my pastries in the new grocery store in San Luis called the Slow Ranch Marketplace.
Oh, okay.
That new development that they're building right there off the freeway. Yep. In Laguna Lake, my husband's old stomping grounds. So that's where you can pick up some of my stuff now, but you can also just call me or text me. My phone number is on my business card, and I'm sure we can put it on the
I'll plug everything for you.
On the podcast.
I absolutely will.
And then I can help navigate the ordering through there. So
okay.
But yeah.
And then I'm assuming if people want stuff for the holidays, you're probably gonna get a little busy. So
yeah,
I'm assuming, right? Yeah.
Well, I hope so. And I'm excited for the holidays. I have a bunch of fun ideas as far as like incorporating cranberries and like that kind of stuff into bread, and
you said stuffing.
And stuffing, yes, and pastries, and I really like making scones, sourdough scones. So I do play with those flavors a lot too. So I just did a cranberry apricot one. Ooh, nice. That one's sold out. I made 24 of those for farmers market this last weekend, and they sold out.
You gotta get there early, people. I've done that all the time. Yes. I'm like, I want this loaf, and it's not there. And it's like, okay, I mean, good for them. Yes, perfect.
Yes. So I'm thinking about some Christmas stuff and the holidays, and doing some savory scones too. So
nice.
Yeah. So it'll be super fun. I'm excited. Everybody can check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll plug you and tag you and everything and all that good stuff that I usually do. But I just want to thank you for coming and saying
Thank
yes.
you.
I've been trying to get somebody on that does bread.
Yeah. Well, I'm still so new, and I definitely don't consider myself an expert. I'm still learning every single time I make bread. But I've just found so much joy, and it's like literally changed my life. And so, when I saw Mighty Cat Mushroom Guy came on your show, I was like, awesome. Because we're like across the way at Farmers Market together, and his wife made me my first black sheep hat. Yeah, so it's just like a family.
Yeah, I mean, they're great people.
Yeah,
and they're. I got to take that guy's tour. That's the thing. It's like, I know all these people. I only have so much time. I'd love to go on the tour.
Yeah.
Have you been on the tour?
No, but I've seen videos, and it does look pretty rad.
I'm like, I want to go.
We'll have to do it together.
Yeah, let's do it together. No, I'm totally down.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law wants to go too. So we'll all go together. And anything else you want to add before I kind of shut this down here?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think we got everything.
Let's check it out.
All right, cool.
Yeah.